Welcome and thank you for being here, and thank you to those of you who reached out with a helping hand. Today a special thank you to Michelle and Mary Ann. Your help was greatly appreciated. Okay guys, today's video is again maybe a little controversial, but you know me, if it is fiction you want, then tell me. I could do a separate channel for that. I love writing fiction and it is fun and requires very little research. Anyway, before we get to the royals, I just want to mention something else. Do you guys remember Nicola Bulley, the British woman, a strong swimmer, out walking her dog, who drowned, and yet another British case of nothing to see here? Apparently, allegedly, according to law enforcement, she committed suicide or fell in and hit her head. You're right. Well, I'm glad to see that Peter Folding is asking for a new inquiry. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but a relatively tall woman dressed in a thick jacket going over a shallow weir? Not likely. Anyway, we'll see where this goes. I somehow doubt that Peter will get a new inquiry though. Anyway, on to the royals. I'm going to start with Andrew again, and this whole Epstein and supposed crazy behavior of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Now, I can't get away from it because something stinks to high heaven. I had the same issue with stories about Meghan Markle ages ago. Like Meghan, Andrew is a nasty piece of work. It appears he has done things which are maybe not 100% normal behavior for a normal person. Allegedly, he has also been dishonest and traitorous, and no way under the sun, heaven or hell, will I even attempt to defend Andrew Mountbatten Windsor ever again. But, like I said, when it came to Meghan Markle, she had done enough to make herself look crazy and maybe afford herself a spell in prison or an asylum. Lucky for her, she married a royal. Otherwise, that is exactly where she would have been by now. Anyway, I digress. Both of them are crazy enough, dumb enough, and had done enough for us to continue criticizing and talking about them for years without even once having to lie about them or exaggerating anything about them. Quite honestly, I had professional people look at Harry, Meghan, and Andrew and what is happening in their lives, and to quote one person, their combined IQ goes no further than a single digit, of which Harry and Andrew seem to share a quarter or less. So let's start with Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and Andrew Lownie again. Now look, I do believe Andrew Mountbatten Windsor made dodgy business deals. I do believe he likely had a bit of sex addiction thing going on out of pure boredom, okay? I do believe that there are truth bombs in Andrew Lownie's book entitled But Andrew Lownie is now pushing his luck by taking things way too far. And what he is doing now, in a bid to stay relevant, is talking utter shite. The more salacious, the better. Andy is now starting to contradict himself. But lucky for him, people love drama. It doesn't matter how impossible it is. Thus, very few people are noticing. But here are a few examples. Because I did notice and I did do some homework and look into it. Do you guys remember, I made quite a fuss about it, but do you remember Andrew Lownie's narrative about 40 prostitutes which came to Andrew's room over a 2-day period? Now, he didn't say that jokingly or just gave a random number just to illustrate a point. No. It was fairly specific, and it is also bullshit. After weeks of waiting, an expert came back to me and in a very clear, almost scientific way, debunked Andrew Lownie's story and said, and I quote, "This sounds like a plot from a gritty crime drama or a tabloid headline." Now, I did not tell him who the characters involved were because I did not want any bias from him. Only after he told me what he said, or after he did his analysis, did I tell him who I was talking about. So, okay, here is, and before I carry on, he also does not know me from Adam. He knows me as Bookworm, okay? He does not know me personally, so there's absolutely no bias. Okay, so here is his analysis. In a 48-hour window, 40 visitors means an average of one person every 72 minutes. Now, okay, I just want to interject here. It is quite possible that 1, 2, 3 girls came to Andrew's room at the same time. Okay? But let's carry on. The schedule leaves almost no time for sleep, eating, or basic hygiene. Managing the traffic flow of 40 different people to a single room without overlap, delays, or security interventions from hotel or building staff is a massive administrative challenge. And then he goes on to say, the human body has limits. Engaging with that many people in such a short time frame would lead to extreme physical fatigue and potentially medical distress. Beyond the physical aspect, the mental stimulation and lack of sleep would likely lead to a crash long before the 48-hour mark. It is, however, the massive security risk which convinced this particular professional that the figure of 40 stated by Andrew Lownie is either a gross exaggeration or a total lie. And here is what he said about that. Bringing 40 strangers into a private space in 48 hours increases the chance of theft, physical altercation, or police intervention significantly. High volume traffic like that would trigger red flags for hotel security and local law enforcement, even at the Hyatt in Thailand. Well, now, with professional backing, I'm now even more confident that Mr. Lownie lied or exaggerated. And no, I'm not jealous of a liar. Mr. Lownie better hush a little, promote his book. But my advice would be to be very careful of what he says on podcasts, because I have another fact for you. And this comes from a lawyer who knows a lawyer who has worked with Andrew. If Andrew had enough money, and if Charles did not blackmail Andrew with some dastardly, let's call it true facts, Andrew would have been in court ages ago and would likely have sued Andrew Lownie for everything he has and does not have, because there is more, and oh my gosh, it gets really, really bad. Andrew Lownie says that Andrew begged staff and friends to arrange girls for him. A lie. At least in as far as begging staff to arrange girls for him. Andrew is stupid, but he is not retarded. Why would he ask staff to find him girls? Because he wanted the world to read about it in the newspapers the next day? Think about it. According to Lownie, and an ex-cop with a criminal record for fraud, women arrived at Buckingham Palace in taxis and on foot in droves. Okay? But then Lownie says, because of these girls or women being arranged by staff and friends, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor did not realize that they were prostitutes. Hogwash. If I ever heard hogwash. Utter tripe. And you know what? Pigs can fly. And I have a bridge to sell you. Andrew did not know they were prostitutes. Really? What about the 40 prostitutes? What about the 40 prostitutes then, Mr. Lownie? And who then paid these women? Or did they give Andrew freebies? I don't think so. Andrew Lownie also said that Andrew had a preference for blondes and ballerinas. Yet Andrew Lownie alleges that Andrew also travelled to Kazakhstan to have sex with underage girls. Another lie. Or at the very least, it is very likely not true. While there is a history of child exploitation in Kazakhstan, the likelihood of someone traveling there with the purpose of relations with a child is very, very low compared to other countries like Thailand and Cambodia, etc. Kazakhstan has a far more robust, centralized law enforcement and a much, 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 much smaller underground sex industry. And why would Andrew go there if his preference is for blonde girls? I ask you that. A professional in the field of psychiatry had a look at a few videos featuring Andrew Lownie, and it is his opinion, or at least it appears to him as if there is a measure of anger coming off Lownie towards Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. He says that if he did not know who these people were, he would have said that it was personal, that Lownie has some kind of personal vendetta against Andrew. Then, to top it all off, look, I've been talking about this for weeks, but I waited and waited and waited for some feedback from all these people, and then all of a sudden, it started coming in, or at least I checked my email for a change. Then a distant contact promised weeks ago to look into Andrew Lownie for me, just a little in his spare time. Sorry, he's a professional and I cannot pay him to do a proper job. But what he found just by doing a cursory check make it seem as if Mr. Lownie himself may have a skeleton or two in his own closet. Now, I'm not going to share that with you at the moment for legal reasons. I'm just mentioning it. You know, what comes around goes around, Mr. Lownie. I am, however, going to repeat myself once more before I end this video. I am not advocating for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Not at all. I sincerely hope that law enforcement will do a proper, unbiased investigation and that the truth will come out. I also hope that at some point Sarah will be pinned down and thoroughly questioned and investigated. Until then, I'm also hoping that Lownie has by now said enough, because if he continues to weave fact and fiction together, he will destroy any possible case Scotland Yard and or the Metropolitan Police could possibly have against Andrew. Remember, it takes one proven lie to actually have a case collapse. Because if there's one proven lie, it creates doubt over everything else. So I don't know, maybe we're looking at Mr. Lownie in the wrong way. Maybe he is doing this on purpose to create doubt, to put those lies out there, so that at the end of the day, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor cannot be prosecuted. Because some of these lies are very, very easy to prove. Anyway, guys, I'll be back as soon as I can to continue this royal discussion, but for now, I have to say goodbye. I'll see you later or tomorrow. Until then, please take good care of yourselves and stay safe. Bye.